Welcome to Nashua Geographic, Episode 7. This is The Eastern Bluebirds of Hollis Crossing by John Prestidge. You've just heard some of the sounds made by the eastern bluebirds. You many times hear them before you see them because once you're around them, you recognize that song and you immediately start looking. They sometimes come in early spring, and even some of them stay over in the winter. While you were listening to them, you saw how the birds might appear. The males usually arrive a week or so earlier than the females, and you see them sitting in the trees without leaves, and now you're seeing them along a little bit later in the summer. And here they are. They're beautiful, just sitting up there, and the males looking around and trying to find the appropriate nesting box. We're going to see an interesting thing here. There's two nesting boxes, and there's a female looking at one, and there's a male looking at the other. And they're trying to decide which one would be the better for their nesting. You can't have them too close together because there's a lot of competition. Now here is a male sitting on top of a nesting box. There's another one. And they do kind of sit there and look around, and they examine the position of the box, where it's located. Is it too close to the woods? They prefer an open field where they can kind of look around and see insects. And if you put the box too close to the woods, you're liable to get chickadees, which are nice, and you also get the tree swallows, which are also nice. And sometimes you will get the invading ever-present English sparrow, which is not quite as nice, so we try to discourage that. Here's a male kind of sitting and looking in back of the box, and he's looking around, and finally he convinces a female, as she sits there looking rather dejected and pale by comparison to his color. And she sits there, and then pretty soon she gets a little bit more interested, and then she'll fly over. And we've seen this many times where the two of them will sit there. It looks like they're negotiating. Her nose is up in the air a little bit, but they finally reach an agreement, and they will sit there, and they will both build the nest or supply parts for the nest. And here they are actually drinking out of a little medical dosage cup that we have attached to the side of the nesting box. In one we will put mealworms, and the other we'll put water. Here are the 4 blue eggs that result from this union of the two birds. Now there are the eggs that have hatched. Here is the male kind of looking over his handiwork, and he's waiting for the little ones to start to fledge, and they will go up into the treetop and the canopies and hang around for a couple of weeks. Now, one of the things I'd like to say is that there's quite a commitment on the part of the people that are going to be tending the boxes. You got to clean them. You got to watch so that they're not open at the wrong time, while the fledglings are just too small to move out of the box. I sometimes clean them with the front pops open, of course, and I clean it with pine sol because the hornets and flying insects don't care for that smell of the pine sol, and the birds don't seem to mind. So, after each brood, you clean out the old nest, you discard that, take it to the dumpster. Don't just drop it on the ground, and you clean it out. The birds are quite clean compared to some of the other ones, but it's very important to make sure that these are attractive to the birds, because you want to have them do the second and sometimes even the third brood in the same nesting box. Now the pole that holds this box maybe 5 or 6 feet off the ground is metal, and on that The ground invading insects can come up there. So what I usually do, I several times during the summer will use a product to keep the insects from coming up there. I put STP, which is a special treatment product for petroleum, on the pole to keep the ground uh, insects from invading the nesting box. I do that several times during the summer, and you'll see the pole it just gets so black with the little insects that start up the pole, and just that's where they end up. The nice thing about it, the STP will not break down in the heat. In the summer, of course, it gets pretty hot down there, and you wonder how these little birds are going to thrive in that enclosed box. But they can do it. It's sometimes 100 degrees, and they still seem to thrive. Now here you're going to see the male sitting on top of the house. He's eating the worms. You can see the worms wiggling. And of course, the worms aren't free either. You buy them at a bait shop or at a pet store, and they're a little bit costly, but still it's worth it. So what we do, we go buy maybe 50 at a time and we ration them. And of course, the bird does find its own insects, but when it does find this little dosage cup having several worms in it, he says, "Boy, I think I hit the Powerball." And of course, the water is there. And sometimes you'll see a bird pick up three or maybe four of these mealworms, and he'll sit and look around, and the mate does the same thing, and then they'll take him into the opening. And there you can see the little birds sticking their open mouths out, and now they're accepting the worms and greeting the mother. And that's what it's all about. We can sit there and we can talk. We're 12 or 15 feet away, and the little birds are just, they're very comfortable with us. We've even had some interesting experiences after the little ones fledge. Say 2 weeks after they fledge, we have been sitting on our deck having lunch or in the evening, and all of a sudden here comes some, what we believe are the fledglings. And my wife has said, I think they recognize our voices because we talk normally when we're sitting watching these. We have excitement in our voices because it is exciting. It's a thrill to see, because a bluebird, that bluebird of happiness it really is meaningful. We like it and we enjoy it. And birds have come up, and one actually bounced off the wall of the deck right behind my wife while we're having lunch. And you see them come and sit on the side of a oak or a pine tree or a maple tree, and it's surprising they can find the littlest twig on which to sit. But it's such a pleasure that no amount of work is too much, we feel, to spend in taking care of these birds. There we see a little bird sitting on the side of a tree. And here's another one way up on top. Now here are some of my favorites. Now this is on our bird feeder. Bluebirds come and land there. We see them in the morning up on top of a white pine tree. Up again we see them. And these are really pretty birds. And here's some more. Here's some more. Now this is really interesting. This is the first day of spring, and it looks more like winter. And there is a male watching over the nesting box while his mate takes a look inside. She says, "Well, I think this is going to be suitable." So, but to see the snow and see how early they are here. And another thing that's interesting is I have assumed the bluebirds will eat suet, but I have never seen them, but here they are. Here is one sitting on a little suet dispenser, beef suet. Another one where little scraps of suet have fallen on the ground and they sit there and consume those. And the following picture is one of my favorites of all time. One little bird takes suet and he dips it in the water of a warmed, heated bird bath, and you can actually see the ripples on the water, and that is, to me, the ultimate. So this is the end of the production of the Bluebirds of Hollis Crossing. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had the pleasure of doing it, watching the birds, and the success I've had, and I feel success without sharing is failure. So come on out and see the bluebirds.